Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and I originally planned to do this video yesterday. However, I didn't realize how long it was, excuse me, how long it was actually going to take me to go through this piece, Alan Dershowitz, Devil's Advocate. I knew it was going to be a thorough piece, but to give you an idea of how much time I spent reading it, it's an hour and 40 minutes spoken word. Let me repeat that. It's an hour and 40 minutes. So this is a huge, huge must-read expose on Alan Dershowitz. We're not going to spend an hour and 40 minutes on it, but I'll tell you what, we're definitely going to spend some time on what was said, the highlights, and go beyond even what the media is talking about, even though I think that's extremely important because of this article, Mr. Dershowitz here, he trended a bit. And he said some dumb things afterwards. Creepy Dershowitz trends, and you really don't want to know why. Well, I would say that no. You do want to know why. Because this is some over-the-top Johnny nonsense. And it really gives you an insight into who this guy is. Now, we're going to go over this part of the trending, but we're also going to go over his whole life. Because this goes from Alan Dershowitz lying about his youth, basically being contradicted by his own mother, going to Orthodox Jewish summer camps, having that interfere possibly with editorial jobs. Later on, his time at Yale, his first wife, etc., etc. We're going to get to all of that. But before we even do that, this is, again, a huge article. We're going to scan through a lot of it, but I wanted to get to the one part I highlighted. Don't tell me it's gone. Of course it is. Why would it stay highlighted, right? So we're going to find it anyway. We're going to overcome right now. Let's see. Let's take just the small quote because I want to make sure we get the big part here. Let's see. Control F, Control V. No. Arr. This is what happens when you read something this big, guys. No. There we go. So this is what he said, all right? Now, I want to make this really, really clear because he defends this yesterday in tweets. Dershowitz told The New Yorker there was a controversy in the class and a very small number of students objected to the teaching. Okay? His intention, he said, was to play devil's advocate in order to challenge the students' thinking. Dershowitz has not shied away from provocation of ideas about sex and law. In a 1997 op-ed in the Los Angeles Times, he argued against statutory rape laws, writing there must be criminal sanctions against sex with very young children, But it is doubtful whether such sanctions should apply to teenagers above the age of puberty. Basically saying 13-year-olds it's okay. And this is in 97. He's an 80-year-old man right now. Okay? Late 50s, early 60s. Believe the hype. Since voluntary sex is so common in their age group, he suggested that 15 was a reasonable age of consent no matter how old the partner was. Okay? He also argued against punishing men who hire prostitutes. In a 1985 article in the Gainesville Sun, Dershowitz proposed that a John who occasionally seeks a taste of forbidden fruit for sex for hire should not be arrested. And that's fine if they're of age, but think about where he's going with this. All right? Now, here he is, right here, yesterday. This is yesterday, okay? I stand by the constitutional, not moral argument I offered for my controversial op-ed. If a 16-year-old girl or 16-year-old has the constitutional right to have an abortion without a state or parental inference, how could she not have the constitutional right to engage in consensual sex? Because hopefully, if that is the case, first of all, and again, I don't want to get into the abortion issue. I mean, there's many issues we're going to get into with this article on Dershowitz. But you know, hopefully it's a teenager in her age group. If it's not, that person should be prosecuted. Should they not? But again, this is the man that defends Epstein, has a personal relationship with him, and as exposed in this article, it starts with a piece from The View a couple, or actually probably 3 or 4 months back. I actually covered it for We Are Change, where they were talking about the accusations Virginia Roberts has made and the lawsuits there. And it brings it full circle to that case, but there's so much in between. I challenge my readers to distinguish the cases as a matter of constitutional law. Oh, he's such a hero, that Alan Dershowitz. I did not suggest that it is moral to have sex with a 16-year-old, but rather that the issue presents a constitutional conundrum worthy of discussion. Bullshit. We can't send 16-year-olds off to war, thank God, anymore. We shouldn't be doing that. I mean, we can have the discussion, since we put 18-year-olds in the military, perhaps they should have the right to legally purchase alcohol. You know, again, if you're going to send them off to war, we've made that distinction in this country, Alan. So it's not a constitutional issue. Stop it. I also pointed out that statutory rape laws are applied quite selectively and often against young teenagers. It's not often against young teenagers. That's also not true. It does. Listen, the system is abused. It has happened, but you're lying, Alan. That's why I also say there are Romeo and Juliet exceptions. Let's debate the name call end. Yeah, 80-year-old Alan Dershowitz wants you to know that having sex with a 16-year-old should be very legal and cool. Yeah. All right. Here it is. That's the headline of this article they're talking about. Take a look. Statutory rape is an outdated concept. There he is. Good old Dersh. Oh, so let's get into this article, because we've already gone that far, but boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to go over. You know, I'm just going to skim through it and try to go through a lot. Now, there's a lot of talk of him defending Trump, the current Mueller situation. That's a whole nother video. In fact, I'm going to be doing a video later today on Robert Mueller. I mean, we've all talked about how he did terribly up there, but what they're not telling you is there's a piece in there where you find out that the main person that started this whole investigation lied to the FBI at least 3 times, according to that document, and guess what? He wasn't ever charged with anything. Yet all the Russiagate nonsense ensued. Totally separate subject. We're going to do a straight-up video on that alone. Okay, so again, this goes over the View's appearance and some of the books, and what is it? He published 36 books. It's pretty crazy. Some of the books he's done, and it also goes over his relationship to the pornography industry, to Deep Throat, to defending Harry Reams, et cetera, et cetera. It goes over the fact that, you know, his defense of Klaus von Bülow, who he got a murder conviction overturned, was turned into a movie later. You know, so Dershowitz has known how, and they focus on this, play the court of public opinion when you can't play with the facts. And that's the truth of the matter. Okay? So let's keep going down here, because there is a lot of really great stuff in here. So it goes over Klaus von Bülow, O.J. Simpson, Mike Tyson, Jeffrey Epstein. There's other people like Michael Milken later on. Who else? Leona Helmsley. They really do. Again, this is going to take you some time to read. And it gets into, you know, some of the big names you've heard about Little St. James Island and defending Epstein. Now, the entire meeting of Epstein is like third act section in this. Again, we pull it back after just a quick synopsis of why this is an important issue right now. And I'll give Dershowitz credit. He absolutely talked to this, the author of this. And the other thing they talk about this is that Dershowitz is notorious for recording private phone calls and then using that later. And you see that in the run-up to the divorce of his first wife. And it's a theme throughout. And he tries to provide some of those tapes in this Epstein case to the author of this. So I want to put that on the table as well. All right, so let's continue on down. So finally, this is just going over Guffrey Roberts and her basically saying, hey, I've had enough. I'm not going to be accused of being a liar anymore. And she goes with a defamation case against Dershowitz. Okay? So let's continue on. And this is Dershowitz trying to claim, hey, my reputation's more important than my latest book. I'm sure, Alan. So they talk about the decades that Dershowitz taught at Harvard University, and they'll go into later cases where some of the rape stuff is extremely controversial with the students. But again, we go into him being a liar and him growing up in an Orthodox Jewish household in Brooklyn. So this is where he talks about fights with Italian kids, okay? And he's like, oh, I don't recall getting anything worse than a few deep cuts, several broken teeth, and one concussion. His mother, Claire Dershowitz, disputed this account, telling the Washington Post the only time his tooth was knocked out was when he played tennis. And I'm sure that was probably later in his life, by the way. Okay? So you see I was talking about his high school Jewish summer camp in the Catskills. I've driven through there on the way down to New York City. Pretty privileged area. I'm sure he's making connections. And again, pretty privileged to be in the Phi Beta Kappa discussion. So in case you want to know what that is, Phi Beta Kappa is the oldest academic honor society in the country. So, that's like the most prestigious you can get over at Yale. And later on, I think he flips that into, the editor-in-chief at the Yale Law Journal. Classmates asked if his religious observances would interfere with editorial responsibilities. He got the post anyway. Again, by all these early accounts, he was very orthodox, very religious, took eating kosher very seriously. So it shouldn't be a surprise that later on he has all these connections to the Israeli power structure, obviously. They're pretty vocal about that in this here. And it talks about him taking on some early cases, all right? And even defending neo-Nazi free speech, et cetera, and trying to, basically get into that court of public opinion. All right? So I want to get to this 1972 case right here, because his marriage was falling apart, et cetera, and he takes up this JDL case. Where is it? JDL, there it is, right here. So in 1972, and by the way, I went to some source articles, so we didn't just have that main article. Again, The New Yorker, Alan Dershowitz, The Devil's Advocate, amazing article, all right? Amazing article. So here, you got to understand, in 72, Dershowitz defended a JDL member, successfully, by the way, who was on trial for manufacturing a bomb which was planted in front of Columbia Pictures in New York. The bomb was placed in protest of cultural exchanges between the motion picture company and the Soviet Union and killed one person. He got him off. All right? Now, later on, he'll disagree with some of the JDL's goals, et cetera, but it shows him heavily entrenched in how he's, able to get people off. So here's where his divorce to his first wife starts to come in. And I don't love getting involved in personal issues, but I do want to point out that he was recording her phone calls. He was able to get, I believe, a doctor to flip their position and the judge to flip their position and give him full custody of the children, not partial. And here it is right here. Dershowitz has a long habit of recording calls, but says he has no recollection of taping these. I'm sure you don't, Alan. I'm sure you don't. Okay? So, he plays some of these apparently, or they get to a judge, and he ends up getting full custody. He ends up also dating one of the young lawyers after this that he helped him acquit that JDL member. Just to show you what the character of Alan Dershowitz is. It's awesome. And no one wants to talk about it, and probably it doesn't get mentioned enough, but his first wife ends up committing suicide, jumping off the Brooklyn Bridge on New Year's Eve, I think in 83. Here it is right here. Yeah. So, yep, she ends up committing suicide. Pretty stunning stuff. So this is his porn connection I was talking about. They go over how he was Harry Ream's attorney, and he wrote about it, and basically said that the accusations that Linda Lovelace made that her husband held her at gunpoint and forced her into Deep Throat. Again, I'm not trying to get into that case, but he put it, I believe, in the book. Reams said, laughed and said, "Are you kidding me? She was really into it." So, this is Dershowitz. Dershowitz likes hanging out with porn stars, etc., etc. He likes hanging out with rich people. And, I'm vastly summarizing a lot of this stuff, but you have to read it to believe it. So Klaus von Bülow is a Danish British aristocrat who actually had been convicted of trying to kill his wife. His wife went into a coma, never recovered. He essentially did kill his wife by injecting her with insulin, right? And Dershowitz wrote about how this was the first really big mansion he'd been inside and how he was captivated by it, etc., etc., etc. This gets made into a movie with Glenn Close, Jeremy Irons, and Ron Silver playing Dershowitz. There he is. If you don't remember what Alan used to look like with the crazy hair and the glasses on TV, that's actually a pretty decent representation. And so that story's told. That was made into a film. And yeah, he got von Bülow off. He got the conviction reversed. It's pretty amazing. And Bülow was acquitted. There it is right there. So again, then put into a movie. You got to believe it because it happened. And now you start getting into him teaching and some of the rape stuff that people were not comfortable with. And look, I'm just saying this. I think that if you do falsely accuse somebody of this crime, it is horrific. It can ruin your career. You could do a lot of jail time. It is despicable for you to do something like that. It's not like Alan Dershowitz doesn't say things that are true a lot of the time. However, when he says things about, consensual sex with somebody who's after puberty with anybody, and then still to this day is defending the statutory rape laws of 16 to be absurd, as we just showed you. If you're new to the video, once again, Dershowitz defending his statements, defending his op-eds just yesterday. Creepy Dershowitz was trending, and that's why. But this article is so much more. It talks about the Wexner connection. In fact, this is the first time that there's people who were talking about the Wexner connection and the $1 bill sale of the mansion. And in this, they say that they have an inside source that said that it actually was basically a money laundering op, and that there were millions of dollars transferred through several organizations. In fact, let's get down to that because I think that's pretty important. Let's continue. Dershowitz. I mean, again, very extensive article here. Let's see. He was confident enough to tell the Star. It talks about his one loss, too, with Tyson. It's not his only loss, but that was the big high-profile loss. So this is where Lynn Forrester, the Lady Rothschild, this is the claim that he met her in 96, or met Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell through that. This is contended. They actually talk about Maria Farmer in here as well. So Farmer is the woman that basically came out this year, identified herself, and said, hey, I saw young girls there. I worked the door there. He ran the same kind of scheme with me where it was, Fashion Institute of Technology promises. Remember, the art world, the fashion world. That's how a lot of these people were lured in. They thought that this was it. Let's see. So let's see. The mansion to establish a salon. Here it is right here. So a source with knowledge of the deal said that the transaction involved millions of dollars routed through a series of holding corporations. It also talks about in here how Dershowitz had invested in something with this Orrin Kramer guy, and somehow, Epstein got the money back. Now, Dershowitz denies that anything happened there nefariously, and he didn't know that Epstein made any calls, and he morally just wanted to give the money back. That's in here. He felt a moral obligation to give me back my investment. Here's the Orrin Kramer stuff right here. I'll read that to you. Dershowitz says that he never heard that Epstein made this call and that he understood Kramer had restored his money because he felt a moral obligation. Sure he did. Sure he did. Now, it also goes into Dershowitz's hawkish views on Israel, basically having a double standard there. And that was an extremely nice little paragraph to put in. But this is a huge article. There's one thing that I want to talk about that I think that we need to go over. Ransom. So Sarah Ransom, I think she's Jane Doe 43. I'm not 100%. But Ransom admittedly says in this article that she put out some disinformation. And I'll tell you what, there was not much in this article that I've not already covered. There was maybe 2 or 3 things. So if you're new to this channel, guys, before we go any further, I want to invite you to join the Burmese Brigade right now, okay? Thumbs the video up, share it, check it out. I mean, we're at the hardcore levels of Epstein before the arrest. A lot of other subject matter too, Nexium, transhumanism, the Bilderberg Group, and a lot more. There's Clinton and Spacey, their relationship to this long before the arrest. We talk about abuses in Disney, child actors, etc., etc. But we talked about Jane Doe number 43 in a video. In fact, let's see if we can't pull it up. But we do so many. We do 30 plus a week here. So let's type that in. 43. Is she in there? Let's see. Where is it? There it is right here. Unsealed Epstein, the co-defendants of Jane Doe 43. We did that one 3 weeks ago. And the reason I bring it up is because we have to be fair. In this, she says that, I'll just read it to you. Ransom was another imperfect witness because they talk about how Dershowitz, first of all, a couple of the police officers said they were under 24/7 surveillance because of Dershowitz and Epstein. Dershowitz denies this. That's in this article as well, but we've heard those allegations before. It talks about how Dershowitz was pulling up MySpace posts. Oh, they smoke weed. Oh, they drink. They're promiscuous. And he was going to bring that into it. And when they talk about Ransom being another imperfect witness, first, well, let's say this. She was of age when she was recruited. She was 22 years old. But in the fall of 2006, she had suggested to the New York Post that she had sex tapes of half a dozen prominent people, including Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, but couldn't provide the tapes when asked. Ransom told me that she had vented the tapes to draw attention to Epstein's behavior and to make him believe that she had evidence that would come out if he harmed me. So she's saying she's retracting that now and saying that those tapes don't exist. I also want to say that Virginia Roberts says she was contacted by Epstein when these things started to come back up and was made an offer. And she refused that offer but was very upset that they were able to find her. And that's when she started to go full board again because she didn't know what else to do. She felt threatened. Okay? So I just want to say that we have to be fair. So I know a lot of people will talk about these tapes. And yes, I know that, again, this was more than likely a honey trap, a blackmail operation. There probably are tapes, but whether or not she has them or they were made that way, we have to be real about it. So I'm going to tell everybody, we covered this one in, under 25 minutes. You can listen to this article. It is an hour and 40 minutes. It is well worth your time if you need to listen to something in the background. Once again, this is a guy that is defending quote-unquote statutory rape and, basically pubescent girls being able to give consent to anybody. And he's defending at least the 16-year-olds today. It's changed over the decades, like a lot of things. Hey, Mr. Dershowitz? Guys, we've got so much more to go over. There's so much more coming out in the Epstein case. In fact, we now have deposition tapes of many of the victims that have come out. We're going to do a video on that. One of the former lawyers representing the victims in the Epstein case believes it may have been a hit attempt on Epstein with the suicide. We've covered that. And we're going to continue to cover his little black book and his political donations so we can really expose the monsters behind this network. Guys, I'm able to do this, give you 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 videos a day. How? Well, I'll tell you how. It's through your donations. This GoFundMe, if you can give $5, $10, $15, I really appreciate it. Remember, if you're not a member of the Burmese Brigade, now's the time to hit that subscribe button, thumbs this video up, share it on social media, put it in the conspiracy Reddits, and help the conversation along so we can expose more than just Epstein. We can expose this entire network. That's what's important. So guys, I thank you very much, and I will see you all on the flip side.